Hi, this is Trey, and you're watching and listening to Trey's Timeless 15. Let's see, 35, 42 hike explanation ideas of truth. Or it could be all a bunch of myths I made up in my crazy schizophrenic imagination. So, yeah, what a stupid idea, man. Vampires can be immortal, but they have to keep killing people and drinking their blood. I mean, if you go to Sean Bond's YouTube page, Psionic League, I don't know if I should say this or not, but he's got a 6 or 7 hour interview with this man who's written books who claims to be from the vampire bloodlines. And, I wonder, does this mean Khazarian Mafia? Like, anyway, so, he says that when he didn't drink blood, almost got, died. He had anemic, he was so sick and unhealthy and pretty sick, but I wouldn't be shocked. But it's called Vampires Are Real. Here's proof. So, but again, the guy he said he looks just like it. He acts just like him. Acts and looks just like you'd think they would. He's pretty regal, but like pale and it's heavy. He's right here in California, of course. And anyway, so you just have to know that anytime you subscribe to these ideas, it lowers your frequency to acceptance of the parasite on any level is just it's really sad. And this guy would say, oh, the vampires were the ones that kept you in line, that made people go at home and be solid citizens and pay their rent on time and never go out at night because they were terrified. So if you didn't, this last point I said in the last video is so key. I can't say it enough times. I don't think. For some of you, a handful, or some of you like my blood kin. Of course, they believe in the spirit, but I don't know how much. So they have to bombard you with microwaves to to keep you stuck in the 3D because now they say that the sacred Christos is beaming more frequencies through the sun, the Sol Helios, higher dimensional frequencies and light codes. Some say the sun is a stargate as well as there's stargates on this planet. Um, Also, they they will never the scientism death cult will never admit to you, or the mainstream media, they will never admit to you that etheric energy exists or the soul. As I've said before, Klaus Schwab's number one guy in charge, Yuri, I forgot his name. He said, "Oh, there's this old myth that humans had something like a soul, but we could program that out of them. And this is who people obey. Okay, many, many, many people, way too many people. So criminal ETs, negative aliens, and their minions, and the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, they will always break cosmic, spiritual, and moral code and human rights laws and violations if you allow them, if you obey them, if you allow them to break the law, both the moral law and human actual laws, they will. Okay, and they're very well organized. They have all these secret societies, hundreds of thousands of black magicians all over the world. And they're gonna break the law and keep running crimes as long as you allow them. They're gonna make it fucking cold every day as long as you just think you can't do anything about it. Simple, okay? But if you admit that etheric energy or auric energy or what Castaneda called your emotional body, your energy body, what it's called in the Orient. If you were willing to admit that your energy body, your aura, your etheric body exists, then you would. A lot of people move away from these regions if they can't figure it out, man, because they don't want the shit bombarding in there. Unless they know how to use Palo Santo and sage and create sacred space, etc. Again, it also depends on the strength of the mind. It's always about that. The micro, you'll never, as long as you're in the 3D slave reality, you're never going to admit etheric energy exists or that microwave weaponry is used to maintain slavery and dominance. Okay? You're just going to say, oh, he's crazy, you know? Oh, yeah, right, sure, that's what it is. Coercion, fear, subtle torture is what they're constantly using to keep you stuck in this sick lower frequency of fear and cancer. And if you study Tesla's works, even as I did, I read his 165-page autobiography, which is basically just an overview. It's such a key to this discussion because you see that we got to shut down all of these space fence programs because they're extremely toxic and harmful. I mean, when I myself found that evidence last week, like I say, it was in my poncho when I saw what looked like sleet falling from a cloud, and it was less than the size of the grains of sand. It looked like diamonds. It was probably nanobots. It's like, hey, what does it take for you to realize it's unnatural for it to be fucking cold every day? I mean, your denial is only going to make you sicker and make you die faster. Whereas if I focus on the dark side, it might make me die faster, okay? So I have to focus on doing good works, and spreading the truth is part of that. It's really another real important key in history to know that I just recently learned about last year is that studies have shown over 70% of house slaves stayed. Think about that, all you who took the injection, all you who love your masters, all you with Stockholm Syndrome, all of you who love the abuse. More than half, over almost 2/3 of all the house slaves stayed. And the chattel slaves, of course, they left, man. Who wants to be a fucking goddamn slave in the field? No one. I'm talking about, the people who are working in the kitchen and the maids and the people who worked inside these houses. Sometimes they were treated well. I mean, in the case of Thomas Jefferson, who happened to be a brilliant freedom activist and a hypocrite because he had slaves, and he would say have speeches against slaves. Well, the reason why there's so many African Americans in the South with the last name Jefferson is because he was reproducing with his slaves. So I actually respect that myself because I find that I have that fetish. It's the fastest way to get rid of racism, right? I have a friend who has a blonde-headed mother, or I should say an acquaintance. His dad, he looks like a black guy, but he never acts racist. As I've said, others have said, Satan's greatest trick is that Satan doesn't exist. Scientism's statement to the public, if you talk to someone who works for the system of scientism death cult, which is university institutions, there is no such thing as Satan or Lucifer or the devil, but most of them, they worship Satan and Lucifer in the black magic rituals in private. But they will tell you it doesn't exist. I had this man I met. He lives in a van, or actually a walk on a truck, and he does landscaping. He's an honest man, fairly good-natured, but he's very shy. He can be negative. And one day he pulls out this black plastic card he had. And he's a member of the satanic symbol. This was before the lockdown. He won't talk to me since the lockdown. He still wears the mask. But he seemed like a really lonely guy, and he's a Taurus, and our conversation would almost get to a George Carlin-esque level where, because Carlin was a Taurus, we would make fun of society to this surly level, and I kind of enjoyed it, to these long talks where we would making fun of how pathetic society was. But then he joined this club, and you know what? It had a bunch of rules about how Lucifer means freedom. Lucifer means that you can do whatever you want and you're free. And I tried to explain it to him that no, it means slavery, mental slavery, but he didn't get it. And actually around that time, I saw an article in the Free Weekly that said this church of the satanic temple of Santa Cruz is doing Save Our Shores for Seabright Beach for a year. The deal with that public service nonprofit is groups get to take care of a beach for a year. So this is what they're doing to sanitize their image, man. They're good Samaritans, you know. You have to realize how insidious this shit is, how prevalent and how big this group is to know, you know, it's not just David and Goliath. I'm just one of hundreds of thousands of Davids, you know, and Goliath is way bigger than Goliath, you know. So you have to know interdimensional parasitic nanobot emotional control through our contact deceptions is real. And if you're not willing to admit it's real, they're just going to fuck you over and make you sicker and sicker. And the extra low frequency pulse is just one of the worst ways. The nanobot implants through needle tech covertly control you through the ethers, through the microwaves. They don't have to have 5G, although that surely amplifies it. But again, like the canceling the flight, like when you get extreme states of anxiety that cause you to do something that you would think is harmful in the long term, or you feel this pressure to make the wrong decision and you took this experiment. Well, don't make the wrong decision. Do a deep breath. And it's going to be really hard, you know. Like I say, like the sitcom, if you're a good-natured or a respectful person, like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. But, you know, some of you have so much heart power, even though you didn't have the discernment. You were coerced into this insane black magic international ritual. But you know what? Maybe you can have the willpower not to be a sleeper, not to do harm to others, not to cause harm to your family and friends. I mean, it's going to take a shit ton of willpower for sure, but you know, we really have to not allow the dark side to dominate, because they know that the original, secretly or subconsciously, some of them have told me they want to kill me, or they're going to kill me, or they're going to remove me when they noticed that I was adamant about the truth. This is before I've told the story about this before, but you got to be willing to face censorship, blackballing, shadow banning, death, to speak your truth. Now, I'm not saying that everyone watching has to go out and cause harm to their own life. No, I'm just saying in your own way, through waking up, through, as Gandhi said, living, being an example that you want others to see, being the change you want to be in the world. But when you can actually see that the wealthiest people on this planet, at least the majority of them, probably are not allowed to have free will, and you are. It's such a, you know, you see the slavery is so vast, and that your self-respect and discernment is such an important key. Your sense of peace and harmlessness and self-respect is so key that when you reclaim even parts of it, man, the joy is going to come back, the rejuvenation, the peace is going to come back. And again, when you can spend 5, 10, 15 minutes a week in the forest or by the ocean, you don't have to be as lucky and blessed as me as to spend all the time, but you'll feel the peace coming back. You'll feel the rejuvenation coming within when you allow yourself to reclaim, retain, remember the peace that Christos is within your heart. The divine light of the Almighty is not luciferic or microwave nanobots, parasites taking control, but it is in your heart. It is the oneness in your heart that will help you remember who you are. Give thanks every day and every night. Many blessings and one love.